Good evening all. Welcome to Carrow Road, where Norwich have lost 3-1 to Chelsea on an extremely eventful night. It may be a fifth consecutive defeat. Norwich may be bottom of the Premier League and probably still heading back towards the Championship, but they were applauded off tonight for a fantastic effort in the second half after a pretty disastrous first half when, given Norwich had lost 7-0 at Chelsea earlier this season, we were all pretty concerned about what was unfolding, and we thought that we were going to see them on the wrong end of another big score like that. It was really not good. They were booed off very loudly, but there was no boos at all for the Norwich players. There were some for the Chelsea fans who chanted Roman Abramovich's name all night, which was pretty disgraceful to hear. Just shows that tribalism continues in football, really, despite the moral implications and the wider context of the horrors that are unfolding in Ukraine at the moment, and Roman Abramovich's links to Vladimir Putin and the Russian government and all that sort of stuff. They still sang his name throughout because they connect to him with all that success that he has brought and brought to the club over the years. But I'll try not to talk too much more about that because it just gets me pretty annoyed, really. And the Norwich fans, I felt, very much leave with the upper hand on that front. Morally, they were chanting dirty Russian money throughout, in particular when Romelu Lukaku and N'Golo Kante came on with 5 minutes remaining, and it was Kante's energy which really, in the end, got them the third goal, which made sure of it and ensured that they didn't end up drawing the game, because Norwich gave it a really good crack. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what this whole situation is about. If Norwich go down, it kind of makes objective sense and no one's really surprised. But as long as you go down swinging and giving absolutely everything and showing determination and spirit and being in the faces of the opposition all the time, and you're organised at set pieces, which Norwich weren't in the first half tonight, and you're doing all that you can to level the playing field and show your best, then fans can handle it. Fans can handle defeats, certainly to the big boys like Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester City, as we've seen recently, because they have been able to spend hundreds of millions of pounds. They have some of the best players in the world. It's not really there for debate, is it? If you lose to them, you brush it off, you crack on. We all know Sunday, Ellen Road, that's the last chance for saloon for Norwich. If you don't win there, it is definitely over. It would be a great escape of epic proportions, really. But strangely, those around them keep losing. Watford lost 4-0 at Wolves tonight. Newcastle are now well clear of things. They look like they're probably going to end up finishing the top half, but surprise, surprise, they spent a load of money in January. But still, fair play to Eddie Howe. It's still not an easy job because money comes with pressure, doesn't it? As we've seen with the big clubs, when it arrived at Manchester City and Chelsea, it took them a while before they became successful. So, same for Aston Villa as well, who won 3-0 at Leeds tonight, and it's not started well for Jesse Marsch. So we shall see what sort of a game it is on Sunday. But if Norwich play like this in that first half, they could definitely get 1 or 2 goals up on Leeds before half-time and set up a really good result. I'm sure we'll be talking about the 3-1 win at Leeds in 2019 when Norwich executed it. It was a very different game, of course, both teams going for Championship promotion at the time, but the way that Norwich executed that win was superb. They kept their calm so well during a sort of the white heat of battle, a brilliant atmosphere at Ellen Road that night that we've all talked about so many times. Well, if Norwich can perform like that for their fans up at Ellen Road and get a win, then, you know, at least people will be able to hold on to a bit of hope during that 3-week break, which is really not ideal. But I suppose if they were to manage a win, then they could use that 3 weeks just to really get everyone fit and try and scheme a way to survival. It would still be possible, even though still unlikely. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Anyway, it started off terribly, 2-0 down inside 15 minutes. Within 3 minutes, the goal was scored by Trevoh Chalobah, former Ipswich loanee. It came from a corner. Chelsea were all over Norwich in the first half. Dean Smith had switched to I'll say it is 5-3-2 really, because the wing backs weren't really wing backs, but he made 4 changes. There was no Sam Byram. I haven't heard the post-match stuff yet, but That's pretty concerning, isn't it? Connor, my colleague, said he saw Byram limping towards the end of Saturday's loss to Brentford. So Max Aarons comes back in on the right. Zimmerman and Kabak come into central defence alongside Hanley. Ben Gibson dropped to the bench. Billy Gilmore couldn't play tonight, of course, playing against his parent club. So Pierre Lees-Malou comes back into midfield, and the other player to drop out was Milo Rashica, who was on the bench. Chelsea also made 4 changes from their 4-0 win at Burnley. So they had Christensen, Kovacic, Werner, and Azpilicueta all coming back in, no less. Some pretty big names, which meant that they could keep Kante, Lukaku, Ziyech, Rudiger all on the bench, who all, of course, would be immediate starters and stars for Norwich. Kepa, as Ariza Balaga as well. Kennedy, they're all players who'd obviously get into the Norwich team. Possession, 67%. At one point, it was up around 80% in the first half. To Norwich's 33. They had 15 shots at goal and 7 on target. Norwich had 8 and 3 on target. And from a ratings, basically you can sum it up. The game of 2 halves, sort of typical, really. In the first half, no one's above a 5 for Norwich. It was not good enough. They were overrun. They were unorganised. Dean Smith has got to take some of the blame for that. The formation didn't work. Chelsea playing a 3-4-3, and Norwich's midfield just were bypassed the whole game. McLean was totally anonymous. Lees-Malou struggled. Norman tried to pub his chest out and make things happen, but didn't really work from either. Played one of the worst passes I've ever seen from trying to spread the ball to the right to Max Aarons, and it was like a goal kick in the end. He just smashed it into the stands and turned around in disgust. So those were the two who, Norman and Zimmerman, came off. We did see Zimbo walking away with what looked to be an ice pack on his forehead. So there was an incident in the first half where he'd gone up for a corner and looked like he came pretty close to making contact with the ball. So we think that was probably that incident, but we're not sure yet. So Rupp and Rashica come on. They switched to a 4-3-3, and they were so much better. Almost straight away, the intent was just there. It just worked much better. The back four was better, but it was also, I guess, maybe Smith gave them a bit of a rocket at half time, but they knew that had been a bit of a disaster in that first half, and they were just so much more determined. They were much more in Chelsea's faces. They were pressing harder. The shape worked better. Rupp gave energy in the middle, which worked pretty well. McLean came to life in the second half, and they really did work hard. But the catalyst was Milot Rashica. He is so important for Norwich. If he gets going, he gets the crowd going, gets the crowd on the edge of their seat, and he gets the team ticking. And he really can. He's not the fastest player in the world. He's not as fast as Poeta, but he is fast, and he's got acceleration, and he's got that low centre of gravity. He's difficult to knock off the ball, and he made such an impact for Norwich in that second half. When, frankly, at half-time, we were just relieved that it was only 2-0. There was a save needed from Tim Krul to deny Mason Mount in the 50th minute, though. And then the chances started to filter through, and it was a good moment. There were some good sort of classic moments where there was one for Kabak, one for Aarons, one for Williams, most of the players throughout the team, where they won the tackle. The ball was there to be won. It was a loose ball. They charged into the tackle and they won the ball. And every time you do that, the Snake Pit, the Blower Barkley roar, don't they? And that's what you want to see your players doing. Obviously, it's a dangerous game. You've got to be careful. You've got to make sure you don't turn that into a foul and get a stupid red card or anything. But they didn't do any of that. And it did. The atmosphere was superb. We thought the equaliser was coming. We really did. It was shaping up to be quite a special night, really. In the end, the goal that came back was 69th minute, Tamer Pukki's 8th Premier League goal of the season from the penalty spot. And it came from a lovely little chip from Lucas Rupp into the box, lays Malou into the left channel, smashes the ball low into the box, and Trevor Chalobah goes down. And it's almost like a save, really. And from where we were in the press box, I don't generally call for decisions either way or the other, maybe under my breath or whatever, but this time I literally just instinctively put my hand up and said that's a handball, and everybody in the Snake Pit, Barkley, everyone could see it, but the referee missed it somehow. As soon as we saw the first replay, we were absolutely convinced it was a penalty. But still, for some reason, VAR doesn't just say to the referee, that is a stonewall 100% penalty, you can give it. Instead, he has to go across the screen to have a look at it, to do exactly what we've just done in the press box. And as soon as he sees it, oh yeah, that's a penalty, I've missed that. All the time, that builds a bit of pressure on the taker as well, doesn't it? But Pukki, so nice and calm, sent Mendy the wrong way, who'd been booked for time wasting in the build-up to the penalty, rolled it to the keeper's left, and then quickly ran into the net to grab the ball and get back to the centre circle and try and get things started. But the closest really that Norwich came to getting the equaliser was from McLean. It was a lovely free kick from Rashica, curled in behind the Chelsea back line, and McLean and Hanley both darted to the back post, almost got in each other's way a little bit, but McLean couldn't quite get over the ball enough and managed to loop a header past Mendy initially, and it looked like it was spinning in at the back post, but it didn't have the power, and Mendy was able to pounce on it before it got close to going over the line. But if that went in, that would, well, how close to that was only 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes after the goal. The roof would have come off this place. It would have just, well, they'd have been chasing a winner then. It would have been pretty special. But unfortunately, as I described it earlier, there was a Lise Malou shot that went over as well. Jonathan Rowe came on for Sargent in the 83rd minute, but didn't get a great deal to do. And as I teed up, Kante and Lukaku came on to those chances of dirty Russian money in the 85th minute, and Kante's energy, he was just dancing away from the Norwich midfielders who were all knackered by that point. And you could see it at the full-time whistle that a few of them dropped to the turf initially because they just put so much effort into that against obviously a very good team full of very good players, and that sort of sparked the usual rush for the exits because you knew it was over by that point, and a draw wouldn't have made a great deal of difference to Norwich's position anyway, would it? But I think they can take a great deal of heart from this, and quite literally can say, if we play like that in the second half at Leeds for, well, the first half would be nice, but certainly more than 45 minutes, then you've got a very decent chance of going and getting something there and just keeping your season alive. And who knows, if Everton have got 3 games in hand, they're still 5 points ahead of Norwich. I think they are home to Wolves on Sunday, if I'm remembering that correctly. If they don't take advantage of their games in hand, then who knows? Maybe Norwich can stay in the fight and there could still be something dramatic and special to happen. But clearly, they've got to go to Leeds and get that win on Sunday, or it's just not going to happen. So it could have been a lot worse. But in the end, quite a heartening night. And that has got to be the baseline. If you're going to go down, if you're going to go back to the Championship, then you've got to go down fighting. You've got to go down with your fans at least feeling that there's hope to cling to for next season, that there are players to build with for next season. And as much as things may still get grim and horrible and very negative, as it was threatening to at half-time, and it could still be a horrible relegation, it is a bad run of form, of course, now. I still think that with the squad that they've got here, the way that it's worked out with the younger players, you know, Sargent 21, Jolis is a young player, Rashica's only 25. You know, they've still got the core of a squad to build with, and you know, they would need a bit of turnover. You'd have to clear out some of the players that haven't succeeded and rebuild a bit more of a squad. But if you can keep hold of Dean Smith, if Stuart Webber's hungry for that next challenge, and he obviously knows how to build a Championship squad, then I still think that Norwich will be all right once they get back to the Championship, and we'll start building towards another promotion and trying to maintain the long-term project. But obviously this is all being very painful at the same time, so any positives are incredibly welcome. But we've got a long time to chew over all that sort of stuff, haven't we? So yeah, I'll probably leave that there for now. But yeah, in terms of ratings in the second half, I will give Rashica a man of the match. He can have an 8 out of 10 just for the amount of running, just how much he pinned Chelsea back. They brought on Ruben Loftus-Cheek at right back for Azpilicueta, who was recently back from injury, so he was a bit out of position, but Rashica gave him a torrid time, and he was most certainly the catalyst for this one. And I think you can give everyone else in the Norwich team a 7 in that second half. Williams and Aarons really went for it. Max, there was one brilliant run down the right where he just showed great pace, and then won a corner. Probably should have done a bit better with the cross, but then he turned to the Barkley and just whipped everyone up, and it just felt like it was going to be a special night. And with everything that's happened today, you know, I mentioned Abramovich and all the Chelsea stuff as well. Coming into this game, I'm sure you know by this point, but the UK government has frozen Abramovich's assets, and it sort of put Chelsea's future in doubt. Although it sounds like they will still be able to facilitate the sale of the club, and then it just sort of moves Abramovich on. He's already signalled that he was going to pass on the stewardship of the club to their charitable trust and all that sort of stuff, hadn't they? So it was a strange night for them, and you could have caught them cold perhaps, but it almost seemed to fire up their players in the first half, because they were threatening to just run over Norwich. And thankfully City showed a bit of fight back, and we need to see a lot more of that, because at least if you go down to the Championship fighting and showing that sort of spirit, then everyone's got something to cling on to. That'll do. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the game in the comments below. Of course, head over to Pink and Plus for all the reaction and analysis, and we're going to be straight back into it tomorrow. I'll be down at Colney 1 p.m. for the pre-match press conference for the Leeds game. So I don't think Dean Smith's even finished his media for this game yet. And yeah, it's that kind of week in the Premier League. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you soon.